So whether if it's at social dinners or whether if it's at going out with the kids and just letting my hair down a little bit that I've got, all white of course.
Well,
So keep on dancing, baby.
here joined today by Dr. Mahendra Patel. Thank you, Dr. Mahendra Patel, for joining me. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I think it's an honour and a pleasure to have a little chat here today. I'm looking forward to what comes out. I'm sure the audience will find some of it useful and some of it possibly a little bit amusing as well, really, just to give it a little bit of flavour. What do I do? So I'm a pharmacist by background. I'm an academic. I sit on the board for the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, which is a professional body for pharmacists, and I'm leading their national diabetes campaign.
Fantastic. And obviously, as we know, diabetes is a massive issue right now at this moment in time. Why don't you explain a little bit what diabetes is first for the viewers? Well,
diabetes is clearly something that people don't recognise. There's lots of people out there that are walking around with type 2 diabetes and not realising they've got diabetes. In terms of what it is, you could be feeling thirsty during the night, drinking lots of water, wanting to drink lots of water. You could be waking up to go to the bathroom for a little pee. You could feel very tired, very lethargic, dizzy sometimes, etc., and not being able to concentrate and focus properly as well, really. So, and it could affect some of your vision as well. So there's lots of things in there that people have to look out for.
I think we need to discuss the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Obviously, type 1, you are taking insulin the majority of the times. You are having your own insulin and you more or less born with it, whereas type 2 diabetes is developed.
Type 2 diabetes is largely preventable, and that's where we're, from a government perspective, from a health, public health perspective, and an awareness in terms of looking at how people can prevent having type 2 diabetes is key, really.
Let's look at the risk factors then, because obviously I think a lot of us know quite a lot of them, obesity being one of them. I mean, are there any more? Are there many?
Well, there are, and obesity is something that, looking at you're all right, mate, at the moment. But,
thank you.
I think obesity is one that could be prevented through healthy lifestyle, healthy diets, exercising, physical activity. I know for the larger population, alcohol could be an issue as well. So having a look at that, has a high sugar content, as well as causing damage to your liver, all sorts of other things that it can do, particularly if it's beyond moderation. So those are preventable things, but then you've got the things that you can't prevent, and that's
which are
you and me, because it's our ethnic origin, it's our ethnic makeup that makes us higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to the larger white population. And then you've got the fact that within males, so young males are more likely to have type 2 diabetes. So that is something that you can't change. But it's largely some of these preventable issues around lifestyle, physical activity. Are we sitting around in our little comfy chairs and me bagging sweets like I did last night as I'm watching my curry or something?
It's better than Leeds United.
Well, listen, at least getting out to Leeds United gets me out there.
True.
Or perhaps one of the campaigns that I supported, I don't know if you're aware, but a couple of weeks ago it was the National Diabetes Awareness campaign in terms of prevention of type 2 diabetes from NHS England. And I went round cleaning cars, really, showing that just getting out there. The weather was good. It was sunny.
Cleaning cars.
Yeah, spring was.
Proper,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You weren't in like.
Yeah, I got somebody else to clean
Oh,
it, but at
okay.
least I got a photo shoot saying that, look, this is what you can do, and I was pretending to clean, I'll be honest.
All right.
But it's the encouragement that
Yes.
anything, you don't have to go to the
No.
gym to get all this
Of course.
activity.
I think
I
that's.
can't afford the gym, right? And I'm too busy anyway, like many people are, but I can run up and down the steps a few times,
Yeah.
or I can walk around the garden, or just do a few press-ups in the morning. And I think the important part is making small changes.
Yeah.
It's like saying to a smoker, don't smoke. So it's like,
Yeah, it's
you know,
difficult.
I love my sweet and sugary foods, as you know, but if you say to me, don't have any, then I'm not necessarily going to not have any. But I think if you said to me, Mahendra, why don't you just have, rather than having 2 bags of sweets or a samosa, which I love, why don't you have a smaller one there as well?
Yeah.
And just those small, little incremental changes in your life can have a big, huge difference
Yeah.
over the period, really, in terms of preventing.
How does diabetes affect your life? That's what I think a lot of people want to know, because obviously there's medication out there, and obviously if it's under control then it's fine, but how does it affect your life? Does it affect your daily life, daily routine?
Well, if you take me, for example, as I've mentioned, and it's well known that I have a very sweet tooth,
Yeah.
and touch wood, I hope I don't get diabetes, but if I do, then that would have a significant impact on some of the things that I like to do, particularly when it comes to food.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
So whether if it's at social dinners, or whether if it's at going out with the kids and just letting my hair down, the little bit that I've got, all white, of course.
Well.
That's just from a personal perspective.
Yeah.
In terms of living with diabetes, that can be difficult as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you could have, particularly within the Asian families, we live with extended families, large families, often, and everybody's tucking into their kebabs and fatty foods and the naans with ghee
I remember that charity event that we both did, and it was a British Heart Foundation one, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We actually went to a charity gig, and Mahendra had given this talk, a fantastic talk about heart disease, and then as soon as it finished, the food came out. What was everyone having to eat?
Well, yeah, and it was all the stuff that we wouldn't have, but you
Exactly.
see it everywhere, don't you?
Yeah.
Really, it's there, and the healthier option, the greens, the veg, etc., the low carb stuff, it is not often picked up. I remember my mum used to just spread the ghee, you know, the
But it's
butter
not
all.
just that. I mean, as I work in surgery now, I have these diabetic reviews that I have with my patients, and a lot of the times the answers to the questions are, but I don't have sugar.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously with rice and
Chapatis,
they're
and
all
naans,
carbohydrates.
they're all
They're carbohydrates.
They're high in carbohydrates. I mean, if you actually count in some of these families, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but I could soon tuck away 6, 7 chapatis, small ones, thin ones.
Okay.
Okay. But now I've realised that
Yeah.
having going to 6 or 7, I can do away with 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then and it's the same with sugar and things like that,
Of
as
course.
well. So, but it's not just the sugar. Look, the sugar, the chapatis, the naans,
They
the
all add up.
butter, the ghees, they all add up. It's
Yes.
cumulative, isn't it? When I've worked as a pharmacist, particularly in my supermarket locum days, I see trolleys with particularly within the Asian families. It's got the things that we wouldn't choose as a healthy diet. You know, you've got biscuits, you've got crisps, you've got butter, you've got all that's in there, and you've got sugary drinks in there, and pop and crisps. I could go on. Let me bring you into the stats of diabetes.
Okay.
22,000 people per year in this country die early with diabetes.
Right.
Now,
That's
remember,
a high figure.
bearing in mind that I said as Asians that we have a higher tendency, we could be at 6 times more likely to have type 2 diabetes compared to our white counterparts in this country.
Wow.
If you're African Caribbean, it's 3 times higher, so it's still higher in those as well.
Okay.
If you look at the treatment costs for type 2 diabetes, it's £9 billion almost
In
the
the UK?
NHS budget in the UK for treating type 2 diabetes.
9 billion.
Yeah, now look at that, and because type 2 diabetes, as I've mentioned and we've discussed, is largely preventable,
Yes.
then that's a serious amount of money that
Yeah.
if your parent, my parent, family, anybody, friends, anybody involved that may want a hip replacement would have to wait, or any other intervention that people are having to wait, then these are where monies can be shifted around, but it's
Yeah.
preventable. But also, it's good for our perspective that we don't want that disease.
No.
I certainly don't want that disease.
No.
At the moment, there are 5 million people walking around that are at high risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
What is high risk? What is high risk? Let's
So-
explain that.
So high risk is, as I've mentioned, ethnicity has.
Yep.
So we can't do anything about
Ethnicity.
it. So ethnicity, if you're a male,
Your gender.
Yep. can be at high risk. The fact is that if you're obese, you're overweight.
Yep.
Your physical activity levels, if you're not very active,
Yep.
and you're a couch potato, and some of the dietary habits that you
Yeah.
engage in, so those people are particularly at high risk.
Family history.
Family history
Yeah.
is another one, where if your father, mother, sister, brother in your family has had diabetes of any kind, then the likelihood is that you would also have diabetes,
Yeah.
or you need to get checked for
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And I think diabetes affects us earlier than the white European population, and it's the other things that it can cause as well, and other factors that it can have.
Right.
But if you've got heart disease, then it's likelihood that you could lead to diabetes from there as well, really. If this level of growth, and you did mention, I think might have been prior to this,
Yeah.
we discussed.
Because it is growing. Let's be
Yeah,
honest,
it's
it
the-
is growing, isn't it? Because how long have you been a pharmacist for?
Well, listen, a few
Sorry.
decades, okay.
I'm sorry.
Just
But yeah,
it goes
you must
into
have,
decades.
You must have seen, obviously, with the level of closeness you've had with diabetes, you must have seen an increase in that over the years, right? Surely.
Yeah, well, you do, and you continue. I mean, the population's increasing, but also what I call it the McDonaldisation
Of course.
of our
And
communities.
we have seen that,
Yeah, so
not just in the UK, but obviously in India and Pakistan,
yeah.
where
People
that
are
is
going
out-
into
it's out
these
of
fast
control.
food, and it's going straight out. So the McDonaldisation in other countries, we're already at higher risk. If 5 million people are at high risk of type 2 diabetes at the present moment in time, that is a huge number.
How
right?
many of them do you think know about it?
Well, this is interesting. For every one diagnosed with diabetes, there's at least one walking around that don't
That
know.
doesn't.
Yeah, and if these figures continue to prevail, then 1 in 3 people, that's 1 in every 3 people that we'll be with or around or in touch with, is likely to be obese by 2034.
1 in 3.
1 in 3. And that then relates to 1 in 10 person was likely
Right.
to have type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So we don't want that. It's difficult, but do you want something that you can probably avoid having?
Yeah.
Then
Well, you
no.
don't.
If there's things that you can't avoid, then that's the grace of God or
Yeah.
Allah or the Lord, whatever their wishes may be or fate. But when it's something like this,
Yeah.
then we're all doing everything we can to be healthy and live longer. Isn't that our wish?
The way I look at it, and I've always said this, is my religion, my body, looking after my health is my religion. That's part of my religion.
Yeah.
I mean, your religion should tell you to look after your body and your health.
That's where
And-
Ramadan becomes very, very important. As you
Yes.
know, I've given talks and worked with some imams here and seen them on a national basis as well. The imam during Ramadan has a pivotal role for Ramadan, but also in terms of healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Ramadan is coming up, and obviously this is going over on the internet, so that means that you can access this at any time. So you might be in the middle of Ramadan, or it might not be Ramadan at all and you're preparing for it, but What should people with diabetes do during Ramadan? From my understanding, I would always advise you to see your healthcare professional maybe 6 to 8 weeks early, just to get that plan if you do wish to fast. But
You're taking my line away.
I know I am, but at the
You're
same
taking-
time, that's what my understanding is as a pharmacist. So,
You've hit it right. You've hit it right on the head. If you're a diabetic patient, what happens there? And Islamic scholars globally and for many years and centuries have always said, it's part of the Quran, and I don't need to tell you, young man, but it is part of the Quran that if your health is at risk, then you should not be fasting.
No.
I think it's working with that patient, understanding their risks, understanding are they in a position to be able to fast healthily, and where do they get that advice? Speak to the pharmacist. Now,
Exactly.
I'm not just saying that as a pharmacist, I'm saying that they can actually look at your situation in terms of your other medication that you may be on, and whether if it's safe for you to fast, and possibly if it's not, then to give you the appropriate signposting, either to see your diabetic nurse or go back to your doctors and check whether they can change any of your treatment regime.
Yeah, of
as
course.
well becomes important, whether if it's a long-acting insulin that you may need to change up to, etc., etc. And this becomes key. That brings me on to something interesting, because what constitutes breaking a fast?
That is the issue. I mean,
You didn't think of asking me that.
No, I didn't, because that has nothing to do with the title. But at the same time, like, does medication break the fast? And
Yeah.
certain medications do break the fast. That's what certain scholars are saying. But then again, some would argue that it doesn't. For example, I'm asthmatic. Would my inhaler break the fast?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it wouldn't, because I'm inhaling it, whereas some people would say it's still entering the bloodstream, so it would.
As a pharmacist, I myself, and as a healthcare practitioner, I would not ever want, not just you, but anybody, to change their religious beliefs because of my say-so.
Yeah.
I would never even go down that line, because I respect people's beliefs. But you work with those beliefs, and how can you support them? So if you choose to continue using your inhaler, for example, then I've got to then work with you in supporting you. Or if you continue not using your inhaler, then I've got to then warn you of the risks.
How do we get around it? Yeah, exactly.
What could happen if you didn't use your inhaler, and what are the other mechanisms and support systems that you could fall back on should you become short of breath, etc., etc., and also working with the wider primary care team to support you. Coming back to what breaks fast during Ramadan and in terms of your diabetes, which is particularly what I'm talking about. So some people are not using their insulins at fear that it will break their fast. Similarly with oral medication, they're not taking oral medication because they think that is breaking their fast, or when they break their fast during iftar, they're doubling up. And that could give them serious effects, as you know, about dropping sugar levels. That would potentially mean a hospital admission. These are unnecessary things that happen that could be avoided with the right advice, with the right support, and talking to the people within the team, really.
So see your pharmacist, doctor, healthcare professional, somebody that you see, even your diabetic nurse even. Have a diabetic review, an asthma review. Go and see everybody even before you contemplate fasting if you're taking medication. That would be my advice.
That's good advice. I think the other thing is that people who are fasting, even regularly doing, and if they're on insulin, regularly having your blood sugar levels checked, does not mean that your fast is broken. There's also, in some areas, people think that having your blood sugar levels tested,
because really all it is
through
a
finger prick
testing,
right? Can break your fast. It's important that you do that testing regularly, because you don't want to go into a state of hypo. and make sure that your strips are in date, your machine is well calibrated,
Yeah.
and you have access to all this. So
Okay.
and these are the other things that you need to be very, very careful with.
Yeah.
And I think from a dietary perspective, obviously it's important to have long-acting sugars early in the morning, when you start your fast, so you've got sustained level of energy supplies to keep you going through during the day. And before and after, also the key part is drinking lots of fluid.
Yes.
And also when you go to do your prayers, the Tawahir, is it
Yeah,
Tawahir?
Tarawih.
Tarawih.
Yeah.
The Tarawih prayer, the final prayers, that has a lot of physical
Yeah.
exertion.
I mean, a lot of people don't drink water through the Tarawih prayers. Like,
Yeah.
why would you not? I mean, you've just been fasting for 18 hours.
Yeah.
Go and drink some water. And I've mentioned this in my previous video about water intake and how important it is, and dehydration, how dangerous dehydration can be. So, I mean, that's one thing that we do wish to kind of avoid during Ramadan, during any time really, but if you're diabetic it can be much worse.
My message is that number one, you can get the support. Number two, search out that support. Number three, listen to your imams. Number four, if your health is at risk, please talk to your doctor, but don't try and fast and put your health at risk. It's not just you, but it then involves the wider family and the stresses and the strains behind that. And let's try and manage this effectively, but with support and advice that makes us feel better during the month of Ramadan. Remember, if you break a fast, then you can always come back to a fast.
That's true, you can
As
always
well.
do it at the end
Yeah.
of Ramadan when you're
Yeah.
feeling more healthier.
Yeah, but so I think the medication side of it is key. How many people have you seen, do you know, where people actually stop taking their medication all the way through, and that becomes a serious issue?
It's an issue.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's an
the other thing that I'd just like, not to do with Ramadan necessarily, but within the Asian culture, people on insulin feel that there's a bit of a taboo around having insulin because they think they're going to die, or they think
They're on the last legs, like I mentioned. Like,
correct. They think they're on the last legs.
Yeah.
You keep mentioning these things
I
that I
do.
want to talk about, but you're naughty. I don't know if you know this, but some people are actually having their insulin in secretly when they're at home because they want
well,
to
there's
keep it
still
away
that,
from
not
their...
only that, there's still that taboo of having it in public, isn't there? I mean,
Correct.
a lot of my colleagues at the University of Huddersfield were diabetic, and it would be quite open for them to inject insulin in the office, and that would be fine. But let's say, for example, you're in a restaurant and you're just about to eat, you know, people wouldn't do that openly, would they? I mean,
No.
there's still that little bit of a taboo as to people injecting insulin.
And that's out there, but inside, internally in our family homes,
It should be fine.
it should be fine, but people are still being either they're away from their husbands or in a and perhaps sometimes even missing that dose. So
Yeah.
that becomes key, that you shouldn't do that.
No.
So that therefore I think it's worthwhile
Yes.
discussing this, but also it's your health at stake really.
Yeah. No, but thank you. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of points, and this video is getting quite long, so I just want to thank Dr. Mahendra Patel, Professor Mahendra Patel now, for joining me. Actually, I've joined him in his house, so this is not my house, obviously. Thank you so much for joining us once again. The subscribers are growing, so for all of you that have subscribed and are liking this video and commenting, thank you so much. I will be back with another video soon. Comment in the comment sections below of what you want me to do, what you want me to cover, and I will do that. But once again, thank you for joining me, and have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Highs.